How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to Perfect Reload Weekly, where we took a look back at the week in video game news. My name is Steve, and it's been a minute. We had to take a week off from the show. I apologize, but work, every time I think it's going to slow down a little bit, it just speeds back up. I have essentially been working every day, 7 days a week for the past few weeks. Ended up having to do a bunch of seminars that were all day long, and it just didn't leave me with really any time. And last week, you know, it was getting kind of down to it where I thought maybe I could kind of fit in the show. I started recording the show on Saturdays instead of Sundays just to give me a little bit of a buffer in case something happened. You know, I could back it up by doing it on Sunday. And it got to last week where I was just like, I just don't think I'm going to have the time. I've touched video games for 10 minutes this week. It's just wasn't going to work out. There also wasn't a lot in the news last week. We knew that the Xbox news was coming. So it was just like, do I do a show and just kind of talk about what I think is going to happen, or just take the week off, have a little bit of time to play games, get caught up on some stuff I wanted to check out, and then we would actually know what the Xbox announcement was, and we could talk about that. And I decided that was probably the smarter route. And obviously, it's a stripped down show this week. I just don't have the time to do all the bells and whistles that the show normally does. And to be honest, it's probably going to be like this for a little bit. I don't know what the channel is going to be like outside of just doing the podcast. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get any gameplay stuff up anytime soon. I've kind of had to take a step back on doing the shorts. I did get one out last week, but that was one that I'd actually filmed a week in advance to have kind of just in the can for if I needed something to go up on the channel. So it's definitely slowed down a little bit. I've just been really busy, so I appreciate your patience. What limited time I have had, I'll be honest, there isn't a lot in gaming right now that kind of has caught my attention that's gotten me wanting to play it. So I've actually been using a little bit of free time that I have had to catch up on some reading. It's been a long time since I kind of dug into any novels. So I've been doing that. I read quite a bit, but I typically read biographies, things that are nonfiction. It's rare that I read fiction anymore. I just don't know how to find authors these days. You know, I just kind of read the same ones. If they're still alive, if they put something out, I read it. But for the most part, a lot of the authors I enjoy are long since passed away. So I've been trying to catch up on some stuff. And then outside of that, I've talked about it a little bit on here. I try not to promote it because this isn't the purpose of this channel, but I also do music. I've been working on, I've been playing music my whole life, but I've been working on the same project now for a few years. Put an album out in 2022. And I feel like it's probably about time to start working on another one. So I've been slowly working on that. So yeah, video games have just kind of taken a backseat, which kind of works out because right now we're kind of in a little bit of a dead zone, at least for stuff that I'm interested in. There is stuff that has come out that is doing really well, like Helldivers 2, but Helldivers 2 is mostly a co-op experience. I don't know anybody that's interested in playing it. I don't really feel like matching up with random people, so I haven't really been interested in that. I have actually been playing more Call of Duty. Usually I kind of check out after season 1, but I'm still going strong. I really like the new maps that they've been adding. But yeah, I haven't had a lot of time to play it, but I've definitely put a little bit of time into Call of Duty, just kind of revitalized with that game. I think it was a good thing. I took a little bit of a break, not because I wanted to, but I just didn't have the time. So now I'm kind of coming back to it fresh, and I'm enjoying it. But did get the chance to play some of the Steam Next Fest demos. Typically I would do a video, but I just, like I said, just didn't have the time. But I will have my thoughts on all of those that I got to play. Still have a handful I haven't gotten to yet. I'm going to try and do that this week. But I guess the thing we'll start off with is Foamstars. Foamstars is out now. It is the new shooter from Square Enix. It's an online only shooter, similar to Splatoon, I guess, at face value. It's a hero shooter. It has the same kind of mechanic that Splatoon has, where you want to spray down your team's color. You move faster on that team's color instead of going under the surface like in Splatoon. You have a surfboard where you're riding the foam. You can build the foam up. a whole bunch of different stuff. The way the game works is you shoot your opponents until they are kind of encased in foam. A little warning will pop up, I guess, for lack of a better term, warning will pop up saying that they're ready to be killed. Although in this game, you're chilled, you're not killed. And you can get on your surfboard and do a melee attack, and that will knock them out, and they'll have to respawn in. Each team has a limited amount of respawns to a degree. Essentially, every time somebody on the team gets chilled, you lose a ticket until it gets down to the end. Then it kind of turns into a VIP kind of thing where somebody gets designated as the main target, and so you're trying to protect them. It's fun. It's fast paced. I really enjoy it. I didn't know if I was going to or not. Some of the characters I don't really click with. I think some of the shooting mechanics are a little odd. Not like it's bad aiming or anything like that. Like that part is totally fine. It's just some of the game or the guns don't necessarily feel like super impactful. Some of the range on them seems a little weird. Like the one that you kind of start off with, it just has this like weird arc. Like, you're kind of aiming in an odd way because you have to kind of gauge the arc of the foam bubbles that are coming out. So it just takes a little bit of getting used to. It's not just, whatever I'm aiming at, I'm going to hit, like a Call of Duty or a Battlefield. Though in Battlefield, you have to account for wind and distance. And I think maybe with sniping in Call of Duty, I don't really snipe, but I think you have to a degree. But this is a little bit more kind of upfront because you would just think like, oh, we're close distance. Like I don't need to worry about that. But you actually do. But I think the thing that kind of sets it apart is you have all these special abilities. There's one character. I will be honest. I did not memorize the names of any of these characters. Where it just kind of like shoots out it looks kind of like a big gummy bear, and it just like plows forward a path of foam for you to zip around on. So you can like really change the course of the match pretty quickly if you utilize your special abilities. I had checked the game out the day that it came out, and then the next day I saw a lot of the the video game YouTube channels that I subscribe to were checking out the game. And the big thing that I noticed, and I think you don't necessarily notice it while you're playing the game because you're just kind of in the game, you're more focused on what you're doing. But I've noticed when a lot of people are playing, nobody's really utilizing these special abilities, and I don't know why. They're very visible on the screen. Like, hey, you can use this. It lets you know when they're activated or when they can be activated. So it's a little strange. I think that maybe it just takes some time to get used to it. But you have a couple of special abilities, and then you kind of have like a mega ability that you can maybe pop that off twice in a match. It takes a while for it to charge up. The other ones refresh like fairly quickly, but yeah, if I have more time to play, I want to play more of it. I haven't bounced off of it outside of the fact that it's just I just haven't been able to get back to it. But I really enjoy it. I think it's a really strong effort from Square Enix, something different from them. It's definitely really goofy. There's some like language in the game's writing that's just kind of, I don't know. It's just like they really like hammer home like we're all about like acceptance and positivity. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing by any stretch, but it's just like it's like the beginning of the game reads almost like a PSA. Like it's like kind of odd. And I was just like, I get what they're going for. Like, you don't get killed in the game. You get chilled. Like, this isn't supposed to be like a violent thing. It's very much presented, not like, it almost seems like a game show, but it's not. It's presented as like a professional sports league, which I think is smart. There's an announcer and all that, nothing that you haven't seen before. Even recently with something like the finals, they have their announcers. But I think it plays well. If you have people to play with and you can party up and get a full team, then I think you're probably in a better situation to have a more enjoyable experience with it. I haven't any issues with the random people that I have matched up with. Everybody seems to be kind of pulling their weight and, playing the game. But I think if you had the ability to have people that and you have voice chat going and stuff like that, you can kind of coordinate your attacks a little bit more. I think that would probably be maybe make for a better experience overall. But yeah, Foamstars is cool. It's out on PlayStation Plus. So if you have a PlayStation, I suggest giving it a download and check it out and see if it's for you. If you're somebody like me who hasn't kept up with Splatoon, but you like that style of game, I think it's definitely right up your alley. I was very much into the first Splatoon game, but I didn't keep up with it after that. I was recovering from surgery when the first Splatoon came out, and I couldn't really get up and move, with the surgery, so I would kind of like put the game in the system, and then that's what I played because I just couldn't get up to like swap the disc out. So I would just play Splatoon like all day, for the first couple of weeks after surgery. And so I definitely have a very like strong nostalgic tie to the original Splatoon. I really enjoyed playing it, and Foamstars is definitely the closest thing to that I have played since then. So yeah, I definitely recommend it if you have the means to play it. All right. Beyond that, no other big release has really come out aside from like Helldivers 2. Maybe I'm missing something, but I don't think I am. I've done my best to kind of stay current with what's going on. Even though I didn't have the time to do the show, I was still, paying attention every day for any big news stories. So to me, the big thing was the Steam Next Fest. And I would say on the whole, one of, if not the strongest Steam Next Fest that we have had so far. A really nice mix of games that are about to come out and games that are maybe later in this year or even in the future. There was a handful of games that said, hey, we're coming out in 2024. We just don't know when. There are some games that are just like, we don't know when we're coming out. And then there's a couple of games that are like, hey, we're out in like a week or 2 weeks. So I selected a handful of games. I only got a chance to check out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them. I think I maybe had about a dozen that I was looking to try out. So I did not get a chance to play. Probably the biggest one that I didn't get a chance to play because it is coming out pretty soon is, what is the name of it? Pacific Drive. Is that the name? Yeah, Pacific Drive. I have it downloaded, just didn't get a chance to check it out. Because I ended up spending more time with a couple of these than I really expected to. So we'll start off with Circle Hitter. Circle Hitter, when I first saw it pop up, I thought maybe it was going to be similar to like a Super Hexagon. I think it's not a neat idea, but it's just not what I thought it was. I think it plays a little strange. It's all done with the mouse. I don't think it has controller support. Maybe it does, but it definitely seemed like a game you would want to play with a mouse. Where there's circles coming out, you have the ability to kind of bat the circles towards the edge of a larger circle. The game is just shapes. It's just shapes on a screen, very much like Super Hexagon. It's just shapes on a screen. There's no like people or anything like that. So you're trying to bat the circle, click it with the mouse, and get it towards the edge of the screen. And around the edge of the screen are other circles. And those are the circles that are generating the enemy circles, I guess you would say, that are coming towards you. And it's just not as fluid as I thought it was going to be. It's not as responsive as I thought it was going to be. I think, that's on me, though. I don't think it's like a bad game. It's just I had a preconceived notion of what I thought the game was, judging by the screenshots that I saw, and it just wasn't that. So it's just not what I was thinking it was going to be, not what I was hoping it was going to be, and it's just not for me. But I don't think it's a bad game. Don't take it that I think that it's like poorly made or anything. It just wasn't what I expected, and that kind of colored my my impression of it. I would say, give it a look, watch some footage of it, see if it's something you're interested in. A novel concept. I don't know what the depth is going to be like for it. But check it out if you're looking for something just kind of like, a classic game. Like it's like an arcade style game. It's something that you would have seen in like a 1980s cabinet, very basic idea. And there's always room for games like that out there in the landscape, to me at least. Next up, hopefully I'm going to pronounce this right. Dystopika, I think is probably what it's going to be. Dystopika. This is a city builder. You know me, if you follow this channel, I am a sucker for a city builder. I will check all of them out. This is not just a demo of Dystopika, but it is like it almost seems like a tech demo. And I don't think it is. I think this is what the game is ultimately going to be. There's no objective in the game. It's a city builder with no objective. It's completely freeform. It's very, very limited in what you can do, but it's also very, very cool. It is more like interactive art right now than I would say like a game. The graphics are very, they are very cyberpunk-ish. It looks like you're kind of building, a city out of Blade Runner. The big like video screens on the side of skyscrapers. You can change the height of the skyscrapers and things like that. But really, you're just plopping down buildings. They're all kind of the same building for the most part. There's a little bit of variation. And then you can choose to put the lights on them. And by lights, it is just those video screens. And there's a photo mode in it. The photo mode's actually pretty robust. That definitely seems like the most fleshed out feature of it so far is that photo mode, which, to be honest, you might think to yourself, like, why would they put a demo out where the photo mode is more fleshed out than the game? I think by those photos getting out there, people that play the demo and taking pictures of it and sharing it on like their social medias, I think that's going to build the hype for the game, because it doesn't look like any other city builder that we've seen before in terms of the art style, at least not one that I'm familiar with. And it being this kind of free form experience with no objective, there's no adversarial component to the game. It really is just you designing the city seemingly in a sea of nothingness. And it just looks really neat. Like I said, there's not much to it. I think after about 15 minutes, I was pretty much like, okay, I'm good. I've seen what this can do. And then I spent some time messing around in the photo editor. I'm going to put on the screen, I will put what the game looks like, so you can kind of get an idea, because it's really it's one of those things you kind of need to see to understand what I'm talking about. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing when it comes out. I don't remember a date being attached to it, so some point in the future, hopefully this year, it'd be nice to check it out. Next up is a game that I could see actually being fairly popular. Kind of like I could see this being the next Tunic in a way, and that is Crypt Custodian. It's a top-down, I guess, isometric viewpoint, exactly like Tunic was for the most part. It's Metroidvania, from what I can tell. There's a map system to it. There does seem to be backtracking and things like that. In the combat that I experienced, very much like a beat-em-up system. You had kind of a very, very bare-bones combo system. You play as a cat who has passed away and is sentenced to be a janitor in the kind of bad part of the afterlife. I think it has a really, really nice art style. It plays really well, solid, no issues with the controls. Didn't feel like I was fighting against it. I don't know if it's what I'm looking for. I did really enjoy Tunic, but this style of game is one that it's not one that I'm always going to be looking at. It's not one that I'm always going to be, I can't wait until the next, Metroidvania comes out, or the next game that's similar to this, these other games that have come before it. It's one of those ones where I could play one every few years and be satisfied at it. I just don't know for me if it's what I'm looking for, but I do think that it has the ability to be a breakout hit. People love cats. The internet loves cats, and this game has definitely got cats in it. So maybe that alone will help it quite a bit. Next up from Devolver is Pepper Grinder, which I thought was a pretty interesting concept. If you have ever played Yoshi's Island, the Super Nintendo classic where you can touch Fuzzy and get dizzy, there is a mechanic in that game where Yoshi will take the form of a vehicle a la Transformers and tunnel through the sand to get from point A to point B. And Pepper Grinder essentially takes that tunneling mechanic and turns it into the core gameplay loop of their title. It's a side-scrolling game. The graphic style that they're going for, it's kind of like scratchy 2D art. To me, it looks very much like a Game Boy Advance game. I think it's a really solid game. I think it's a little devoid of personality from the time I spent with it. Maybe that'll be rectified in the full version. Maybe I didn't play enough of the demo to really kind of get a piece of it. I watched a No Clips video they put out of their 10 favorite games from the Next Fest event. Pepper Grinder was on that list, and they were talking about like, it's oozing personality and the music is amazing. I really didn't have a second thought about the music, and I didn't really get that personality from it. There's an opening cutscene, but it's very basic. There's no real dialogue of any sort, just kind of a setup for the game. Maybe there's more to it than I saw. I did not play the demo to completion, so maybe I just didn't get to that. But it's one to keep an eye on. I am not writing that one off by any stretch, because once you get used to the way the game controls, because it is a little odd when you're in that kind of tunnel, when you're in the middle of the tunneling mechanic of controlling the character, you kind of have a drill, like a Mr. Driller drill, and you're drilling through, and you're kind of trying to hit the enemies or hit the gaps and the little collectibles that you can get, you know, getting like a perfect arc, jumping from one ledge to another in the air. You can press, I think I was playing with a controller, it was the A button. You kind of boost forward with your drill to reach up or across a gap or whatever it may be. You're using the drill for combat. You know, you can drill into enemies and things like that. Like, there's definitely a lot of promise to the game. I think that it's a really, really cool concept that they have. And I would be curious to know if that was their inspiration, that drilling mechanic in Yoshi's Island, because it's so similar to it that I have to imagine that somebody along the way that worked on this game had to have played that, or maybe they arrived to it independently. But yeah, I thought it was pretty neat. And then the last three we're going to talk about are kind of my best in show, if you will, of the Next Fest event. We'll talk about Harold Halibut first. Harold Halibut, it's been in development for about 12 years now. I remember seeing it for the first time a few years ago at some event. It could have been an E3 or something. It was some type of stage show presentation where footage of it was shown. And I was always really interested in it, and I just never heard anything about it. And then when I saw that the demo was coming out, I was like, oh, I'm ready for this one. The art style to this game, at first glance, back when I first saw that video and looking back at that trailer that I saw, I went back and rewatched it. I was dead wrong. But in my mind, the game looked like a claymation, like a Wallace and Gromit type deal. But it's really not. It's kind of its own thing. It's stop motion. And I believe they did it by hand. Like I saw some pictures of them. Like, I think they might have actually made models of these characters. And I mean, it is jaw dropping how amazing this game looks. It is, I would say, the most unique art style I have seen in a video game since when they first showed off the first footage of Cuphead. And if you remember, the first footage we saw of Cuphead was like a throwaway 20-second clip in a montage of indie games that would eventually come to Xbox platforms. It was not the main attraction by any stretch. But I remember watching. One of the things I like to do is I like to look at like the reactions. Giant Bomb would watch E3s, or Kind of Funny would watch their stuff. I like to go back and watch those. Maybe sometimes they can provide some extra insight. And I remember watching the Giant Bomb stream at the time when they first showed Cuphead, and it went by in that 20-second clip, and they all stopped and like, whoa, what was that game? And then it wasn't that long later that Cuphead was getting like a featured spot at those Xbox conferences. So Harold Halibut, to me, the animation style is very much like a Wes Anderson animation style. I would say that, because the game takes place underwater, I would imagine that The Life Aquatic is an influence in that Wes Anderson, not just his animated work, but just his film work in general, with how they, he he kind of has a lot of co-conspirators that he works with on a regular basis for his films. They dress a set. The influence is very high. It is a point and click adventure game. The voice acting is, A+. It is incredible. Every character is really, really well done. This was the demo I spent the most time with. I just didn't want my time in that world to end. I really, really enjoyed it. I believe it's on track for a 2024 release. I don't think I saw a firm release date anywhere. But this game and the next game I'm going to talk about are like, I could see these games being like, when you look at a game and you get your hands on it, for a demo event, you can kind of make your opinion there in kind of see where it's going to land in terms of what you're interested in. And I think there are a couple of these games from this Next Fest event where it's like, oh, these are like game of the year type games. Like these are going to be the games that kind of come out of nowhere that everybody starts talking about. You see that every year. And it's kind of cool to see it in a demo event where the regular consumer gets to play it. And it's not just, we as outsiders to the industry have to wait for an IGN or whoever to do coverage and do a preview and all that, and only get to watch footage or glean your idea from an article or something like that. Like you actually get hands on with it. And Harold Halibut is rocketing towards the top of my list of games that I am very much looking forward to this year. And then followed by Balatro. And I think Balatro seems to be the game out of all of these that is getting the most attention. And it is also coming out soon. It comes out tomorrow, I believe. And if I have the time, which as far as I know, I keep saying this every week, as far as I know, I will have more free time this week because I do not have any mandatory seminars I have to go to or mandatory training events I have to go to. I do not have any of that stuff this week. So I am hoping that when Balatro comes out on Tuesday, I can take the time to record a video of it. That is the plan, at least. So Balatro is it's a card-based game, uses the rules loosely of poker, and you're trying to get the best poker hand you can to earn points. You're not battling against an enemy, you're just battling against a score. Like each round will say, like, okay, you need to get 3,200 chips this round. And the way it kind of differs from poker is you start having all these joker cards that add multipliers or do different effects to the cards. You can open up booster packs, and it'll give you like a queen of hearts that looks weird, and it'll be like, oh, if you play this card, you're going to get an 8 times multiplier or something like that. And there's like 160 something joker cards for you to unlock, and all of this stuff. And it's just such a simple idea, but it is so addicting. It is so fun. Up until I had played Harold Halibut, so I kind of spaced these games out across a couple of days. I kind of played them in 2 big chunks. I was like, oh my God, this is like the coolest thing out of this Next Fest thing. And then, the next day I played Harold Halibut. But Balatro, I think, is from the buzz I have seen it get online, where so many people are talking about it, I think it's going to be a really, really big deal. I think that the developer is really onto something, and I think people are going to really, really enjoy it. And I am certainly looking forward to it. I was very pleased after I played the game and finished the demo, where I saw like, oh, this comes out in a week. I do not have to wait long to play the full version of it. So yeah, that was definitely a highlight. And then last up, we are going to talk about Mullet Mad Jack, which is a first-person shooter. Has a very like 1990s kind of gritty anime style. Not all these examples are going to be from the 90s, but an Akira, Ghost in the Shell, maybe a little bit of Cowboy Bebop thrown in there. It's very fast paced. The mechanic is you only live for 15 seconds. So you got to kill enemies to get more time added to that. You're kind of going point A to point B through this level. It's like a high-rise building, so each level is like a floor of the building. So you're getting to the elevator to go up to the next floor. The presentation, I think, is really, really solid. Really drawing on a lot of those anime tropes, but it's done in such a really elegant way. It's a very nice looking game, good sound effects, just overall really, really nice package. I believe this is on track to come out this year. This was getting a decent amount of press as well. I saw IGN was covering it on their YouTube channel. So they'll get some big exposure for it. I don't know how long it's been in development. It seemed like people were aware of what this game was. To me, I had never heard of it. But I am very much looking forward to whenever it comes out. Very like twitchy, fast-paced first-person shooters are kind of stuff that I always really enjoyed playing when I was young. It reminds me a little bit of Doom. With the way it plays and going through the corridors and getting to the end of the level in the elevator is very much like the end of the level in Doom. It could change as the more you play the game. I didn't run into it, but I don't know if there's any type of like key card mechanic or anything like that, or maybe the similarities to Doom just kind of end there. But yeah, definitely a big highlight. If you like first person shooters, you like really fast paced first person shooters, I would definitely recommend it. But that is going to do it for the games side of things. And we will be back in just a moment with all of the big Xbox news. All right, let's dig into this Xbox news. So there's been a lot of rumors flying around for the past couple of weeks, ranging anywhere from the mundane of, hey, it looks like Xbox is going to maybe release some of its exclusives onto other platforms, to Microsoft is getting out of the console manufacturing business and will be going Sega post Dreamcast and just publishing games on other platforms. Phil Spencer had to kind of get out ahead of this. He's talked about that they had a planned business event, which daddy, all my events are business events. That's all I do around here. So, he's taking a page out of my playbook there, but they were going to do a podcast, which is an odd way to do this, but it wasn't really a podcast. It was just, they filmed the three most important people in Xbox talking with a host. I guess you can call that a podcast if you want. It was just a sit down interview like you would see on like 60 Minutes. But the news coming out of it is, yes, they are going to bring some Xbox exclusives to other platforms, starting with 4 unnamed games, though it seems like those games are going to be Hi-Fi Rush, Pentiment, Sea of Thieves, and the last one was Grounded. Seems like those are going to be the likely candidates, especially with Sea of Thieves and Grounded being live service games. Hi-Fi Rush and Pentiment, very small games that would probably do very well in a multi-platform setup. Did confirm that none of the games that were coming to other platforms would be either Starfield, which is already out, or the upcoming Indiana Jones and his big circle. It's not surprising. It makes sense for them to do it. It's not like Xbox games don't appear other places, Minecraft and all that. When they acquired Minecraft, it's not like they took it away from other platforms or keeping Call of Duty multi-platform. So I don't think it's that big of a deal. They need to do what they can to make money. They spent more money than you can imagine to acquire some of these studios between Bethesda and Activision Blizzard King. You're looking at a near $100 billion that it cost for them to acquire these companies. The Activision Blizzard King deal, not just in video games, but just in business as a whole, is the largest company acquisition of all time. It was almost $70 billion. It pales in comparison. You think about some of the other big deals. I believe Disney bought Star Wars for something like $4 billion, which at the time seemed astronomical. I think they acquired Marvel for under 20, something like that. Like it's, these deals just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And they have to make a return on investment. The thing is you look at stuff like Bethesda Softworks, or whatever their actual company name is, ZeniMax, they don't make a ton of games. Activision Blizzard King don't make a ton of games. Diablo is a once a decade event, kind of. We've had the 2 Overwatch games. World of Warcraft just has kind of their expansions rolling out, but that's not a console release anyway, so they kind of probably put that in a separate category. Call of Duty's every year, sure. But Elder Scrolls is once a decade. They put Starfield out, but they only put games out every so often. It's not like they have, it's not like these are like sports games that are coming out every year, or they have, all these different studios that are constantly cranking stuff out, even stuff like Arcane. They're every few years apart, even though they're a 2-game studio now. So they got to kind of make up this money in some ways, and I think that this is probably a smart thing to do. Phil Spencer mentioned that kind of when they were starting to curate the list of these 4 games, they looked at games that have been out for a while. He said none of the games that are coming over have been out for less than a year. He talked about games that are kind of like, we think that maybe this is going to be the launch of a franchise. Maybe that means that they're going to look at a Hi-Fi Rush 2. Maybe we get a Sea of Stars or Sea of Thieves 2 at some point. I don't know if Grounded will become a franchise, and I don't know if Pentiment will become a franchise. Those seem like the least likely to be franchised. I think Sea of Thieves is probably the most likely, simply because, I guess Skull and Bones is sort of out now. I still don't believe it, but it's getting torn to shreds because it's not anywhere what people thought it was going to be. And if there really is this pent up demand for pirate style games, then they could really expand upon Sea of Thieves in a sequel and give this audience what it wants and build upon the people that are already invested in the first game that would come back for a second. So maybe this is kind of where they're thinking like, oh, maybe when this game came out, we didn't think it was going to be a franchise, but well, they really fumbled, this other pirate game, and here's our opportunity. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's kind of what he meant by that. The next thing he talked about is consoles will remain the flagship experience and the only place for Game Pass. There's been rumors going around for quite some time that the Switch or the successor to the Switch would get Game Pass, but that does not seem to be the case. It's just going to be on the Xbox consoles. They right now do not have any desire or anticipation of stopping production on consoles. That was a big rumor that was going around, was that, this could be the last generation for Xbox consoles. They actually talked about in the podcast. We'll talk about it towards the end of this segment. That they are going to be talking about hardware later this year. That's not going to be a new system. That's probably going to be that cylinder thing. So yeah, they just kind of reiterated, or not reiterated. They kind of doubled down on we're not going anywhere with console manufacturing. There's rumors going around that last weekend Phil Spencer made comments to the staff at Xbox, letting them know like, hey, we are not getting out of consoles. Consoles are here to stay for the time being. They, like I said, they spent so much money. Did you really think that they were going to spend all this money to make these studios become under the umbrella of Xbox, and then just be like, oh yeah, by the way, we're just going to publish games and we're not going to have a system to sell them on? Like, come on, like they're not getting out of hardware. I could see maybe, depending on how things go in the world of video games, maybe they drop out of hardware after another round of consoles if it doesn't work out for them. They are in a very distant third out between Nintendo and Sony and themselves. So maybe that's the case, but I don't think they're done yet. And I would be very sad for Xbox to leave the world of video game hardware. I think that only having a PlayStation and only having an unequal console from Nintendo, I don't think that that's great for video games as a whole. That would, push more people away from video games than bring it in, I think, because then it becomes, well, I guess my options for high-end gameplay are this PlayStation or a PC, and the PC is going to be more expensive than the PlayStation. And, if there's supply chain issues, maybe it's hard to get PC components, and not everybody wants to have this monster PC, and not everybody's equipped to have it in a position where they can play it outside of the confines of a desk. I think that it would be very sad for Xbox to go away. I don't have a dog in the fight. I've never been a person that says, oh, this system is better than this system or anything like that. Like, that's not what I'm about. I think that's such a stupid argument and just a really juvenile point or perspective to have on things. This whole idea of console wars and all that stuff. The console wars happened already, and it was between the Super Nintendo and the Genesis, and that was 30 years ago. We're done. We've moved on. Nintendo won. Okay. That's it. Who gives a shit if you have a PlayStation or you have an Xbox? It doesn't need to be your identity. But I will say that I have become a very big fan of what Xbox does. I am a huge supporter of what Xbox does. I think Game Pass is one of the greatest offerings to the video game player base and consumer base in decades. I prefer playing on Xbox simply because I like their controller better than I like the current iteration of the DualShock. It's not because I think it's a better system than the PlayStation 5 or the PlayStation 5 is a worse system. It's just, this is more comfortable for my weird shaped hands, I guess, and I like the idea of Game Pass. It's nice. It's just the kind of the way things shook out. We jumped to next generation, and maybe I think the next Xbox is dog shit, and, I'm on the PlayStation 6 or, whatever it ends up being. But I think we need multiple game or hardware manufacturers for a healthy industry. They did talk a little bit about Game Pass news in this podcast business event. The first Activision Blizzard King game is coming to Game Pass, and that will be on March 28th with Diablo 4, our award winner here at Perfect Reload, award winner of biggest disappointment of 2023 in video games. So take that, you dumb fucks. Yeah, I don't know. I just don't care enough about that game to even really give it a thought again. Maybe I'll play a little bit of it when it comes out on Game Pass to just see if, I don't know, just to reconfirm in my mind that, yeah, this was a massive letdown. But I imagine more games will come. My best guess is, because they mentioned it a few times in the show that, in June they are doing their big summer press conference. I imagine that's when we start getting the floodgates open for more games coming to Game Pass. I would not be surprised if they do a big thing saying, like, here's 20 games from the Activision Blizzard back catalog coming to Game Pass. And oh, by the way, you can download them today. I wouldn't be surprised if that's a thing that happens. I would love for that to happen. And then last up, there was a comment from Xbox President Sarah Bond towards the end of the business event, saying that their next console will be the largest technical leap we have ever seen. I don't know what the hell that means. I don't know if that's going to be true. Maybe they got some crazy shit up their sleeves. It's possible. I think the Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5, that's one of the biggest technological leaps we've ever seen, thanks to the power of having a dedicated solid state hard drive and the gross elimination of large load times in many titles. The things that developers have been able to do, case in point, Spider-Man, with these hard drives, and even like Hitman 3 really utilized it, is incredible. Maybe they're going to do more with ray tracing. Maybe they're going to try and get some of the crazy ray tracing stuff put into the console experience, like we saw with Alan Wake 2 and Cyberpunk. What would they call it? They call it like the psycho tuning or something like that. Maybe that's what their goal is. But I still feel like we haven't even scratched the surface of what the current systems can do. So I don't know. They're going to have to make a really big leap, I guess, for us to buy in as consumers. But so that's going to wrap it up for the Xbox side of things. I am very excited for the future of Xbox. I think they have some really interesting exclusives in the works. I want to see what they are going to do with their continued efforts in backwards compatibility, especially with having a library available to them like Activision's, which dates all the way back to the 80s with Atari games. Activision was one of the best developers and publishers on the Atari 2600. And if you are new here, Atari 2600 is my favorite video game system. So I would love to have more Atari goodness made available to me by modern means. So moving on from Xbox, a game that we have talked about a bit on this channel over the course of the lifetime of this show, Paralives, the Sims competitor. We've got a couple Sims competitors in the works, and it looks like Paralives is going to try and be first to market, though they did announce that the game would not be coming out in 2024, as many people had hoped for. Instead, it will be coming out in 2025. They put out a roughly 7.5 minute trailer showing the most gameplay that they have showed off to date. They also announced kind of their big selling point to combat many fans' biggest complaint about The Sims is that all of their DLC will be free. And my answer to that is, how do you plan on making money? Because that's kind of how these games make money. But I think the game looks really nice. I really like the art style. I think it's pretty cool. It's almost kind of like a comic book style look to the characters. Kind of like a very realistic kind of like sketchbook kind of look. So I'm really digging that. It looks like they kind of simplified the character traits of the way the Sims characters are made, with all the different kind of personality traits you can apply to them. They have maybe streamlined that a little bit. Now, my biggest thing with Paralives is I don't really care about how the game actually plays from the perspective of whatever they're calling their characters. Because that's not how I play The Sims. I like to play The Sims as an architecture game, and I just like to build houses and do stuff. So that's kind of my big thing, is I just want to know how that works. This trailer was a little bit more focused, and by a little bit, I mean almost exclusively focused on how the game plays from the perspective of actually controlling a character and living out their lives, or their life. So I'm curious more to see the other side of things. I imagine at some point they are going to put out a trailer that specifically tackles, their plans for, just for lack of a better term, we'll steal it from The Sims, what their build mode is going to be like. And the other thing to keep in mind is not only do we have a couple of these competitors that are coming out to The Sims for the first time, but we also have the next Sims is actively in development. No one really knows when that's going to come out, but I imagine at some point in the next couple of years, we will see it. Maybe now that they know that Paralives is coming out in 2025, maybe they start shooting for a 2025 release date. My guess, if even before the Paralives thing came out, if somebody came to me and said, hey, when do you think the next Sims game is going to come out? I probably would have told you it would be about 2025. I would have imagined that if it was coming out this year, we would have heard way more about it. The team over at The Sims, they really kind of get a lot of news out there. They are not shy about talking about development of things. They do a lot of like developer blogs, and they are very active with their kind of influencer community and getting those people early builds of games or custom builds of games so they can see the new content. Like they really utilize that, rabid fan base that franchise has acquired to promote their games. And I keep an eye on the Sims community from a distance. And none of the people that are very influential in that space have really mentioned anything about the next Sims outside of, hey, we just know that it's in development. It has some code name. And it's going to come at some point in the future. They're still actively supporting The Sims 4 and putting out new content for it. It's not like all of a sudden it's stopped and it's like, oh, at any day now we could have an announcement for the next game. They are still putting out a lot of paid DLC for that game. All right, next up, Disney has decided to spend a bunch of money on video games by investing $1.5 billion in Epic Games in order to build a new universe connected to Fortnite. It's going to allow users to play, watch, shop, and engage with Disney, Pixar, Marvel, and Star Wars content. This is coming from Tom Ivan over at the good folks at Video Games Chronicle. My money says that's the best video game news website out there. I very much enjoy how thorough they are with their reporting and how often they update their stuff. They're always quick to give an update on an article if something changes. I very much appreciate that. So this past Wednesday, they announced that the two companies are partnering to create an all-new games and entertainment universe. Here's a quote from Disney. In addition to being a world-class games experience and interoperating with Fortnite, the new persistent universe will offer a multitude of opportunities for consumers to play, watch, shop, and engage with content, characters, and stories from Disney, Pixar, Marvel, Star Wars, Avatar, and more. I always forgot that Avatar is Disney. It also says these games will be powered by the Unreal Engine. No shit. So yeah, they're just kind of hyping it up. This big partnership. I'm sure we're going to see some stuff probably by the end of this year. They've probably been working on something. They'll get something out, even if it's just as simple as like a Fortnite event or something that's Marvel themed or Lucasfilm themed or Pixar or whatever it may be. But I imagine more robust offerings, kind of like what they did with Lego Fortnite, what they're doing with the harmonic stuff. I imagine that will be coming in the pipeline over the next couple of years. I imagine this has been in the works for a little bit, so I would not be surprised if they have like a major release already lined up and planned for next year. So yeah, Epic Games they had to do those layoffs. They made some weird business decisions like buying Bandcamp and then just selling Bandcamp without ever really doing anything with it. They are finally doing stuff with harmonics and forgive me, I can't remember the name of the people that make Rocket League, but they're doing stuff with them. They have those things out in Fortnite. I've never played Fortnite. I don't know if I really have an interest in Fortnite, but I imagine at some point they're going to do something connected to Fortnite that's going to be like, okay, well, I think it's time to download Fortnite and check this thing out. But in terms of like a battle royale shooter, like it looks great. Like, it's obviously very well made. It's very popular for a reason. People enjoy the core gameplay of it. But it's just, I kind of had my time with battle royale games between PUBG and Apex Legends, and just don't really have any desire to return to that gameplay style. If I did, I probably would maybe play Warzone, I guess. I've played a little bit of Warzone over the years. I haven't touched it in quite some time, but I don't know, maybe I'll try and get into Fortnite at some point. Maybe we'll do a stream where I try to get into Fortnite and figure it all out. I watched, you'll have to forgive me because I don't understand a lot about Fortnite, but they did some event. I don't know if it's a permanent thing or if it was just temporary thing where they brought back like the original Fortnite map. And I watched some streams of people playing that, and they seem to be having a swell time with it. They seemed happy, and I'm miserable. So maybe that'll make me happy. All right. Our last story of the week. This just popped up yesterday for me at the time of recording, that apparently the Switch 2, or whatever they're going to call their next system, which we'd very much anticipated coming out this year, I would say holiday this year, is not happening. Apparently Nintendo has been telling publishers that the system is going to be delayed until early 2025. Multiple gaming news outlets are reporting this. They all say that they have talked to multiple sources that have confirmed it. I think that if this is the case, it's very unfortunate, because I think it would have been the perfect opportunity for Nintendo to strike. Sony and Xbox don't really have anything major happening this year. Sony put out a statement the other day saying that none of their existing franchises have any releases coming out until after Q1 of 2025, and Q1 of 2025 is January to March. So, they still have other games coming out, just not anything with an existing franchise. We know Xbox is working on a ton of stuff, but just like the last two big Xbox events, not a lot of release dates. Some years, but a lot of those are 2025. There were some that said 2024, but we don't really know release dates for these games. So this would have been a wide open window and opportunity for Nintendo to do something really big. Xbox, we mentioned earlier that they did say that there's going to be news about hardware this year, but I don't think they're going to put something out this year unless they do that updated cylinder shaped Series X that came out in those leaks from a little while ago. And that's kind of their big holiday thing, for this year. But we came off one of the greatest years in the history of gaming last year. Just by virtue of that alone, this was going to be a down year, because a lot of really major video game developers either just had a game come out, or they're in the middle of the ongoing development of their next big game, and it's not ready to come out in 2024. So it would have been an opportunity for Nintendo to just be center stage and steal all of the attention. And it's really sad that it seems like maybe that's not happening. I'm hoping that this is wrong. I would have loved nothing more to spend some winter evenings later this year with a Switch 2, because I haven't had a Switch in a while. I'm ready for another Nintendo system. I'm good to go on another Nintendo system. I will be right there day one to get it. And I was really hoping that was going to be this year, but so it goes, I guess. But yeah, coming up on the channel, like I said, it's going to be really touch and go. I'm going to try and record a video for Balatro on Tuesday and get that up on Wednesday. Beyond that, I'm not sure if I will have the time to do anything else. Maybe I could sneak a short in there or something like that, but it's going to be a little bare bones for a little while. I'm just too busy, which is a good thing. It's a good thing, just not a great thing for this channel. So I definitely I want to get back to working on this channel. I hate the fact that I haven't been able to, but it's a little bit less of a blow knowing that I already got a big animated video out this year. I've already had a couple of successful shorts this year. Like we're okay. And it's not really a time of year where there's a ton of major releases coming out. The next one, I think the next big one, I mean, I'm considering Balatro a major release for me, but let me look at my calendar here. We got Balatro on the 20th, Open Roads and Pacific Drive come out this week. And then the next one up for me really is WWE 2K24, which is the 8th of March. So, there's not a lot going on this month for me, at least. I know Rebirth comes out at the end of the year, or at the end of this month, but I didn't finish the last one, so it's not going to be something I'm checking out. But yeah, it's pretty slim pickings through the first few months of the year for me in terms of my taste. That's why I'm hoping that a lot of these demos that we saw on Steam Next Fest that don't have release dates, maybe they'll start to pepper in over the first 3-4 months of this year. We'll be able to check that out. But yeah, once again, thank you for your patience through this channel, kind of going through a little bit of a lull right now, but we'll be back at it. I will find a way to make it work. So thanks for hanging out. Thanks for checking out the show, and we'll see you again real soon.